The sky above was dark with smoke. Broken ships rested like fallen giants across the wide plain. Fires burned slowly in the distance, and the smell of metal and dust filled the air. Among the wreckage, one man slowly opened his eyes. His name was Aaron. Aaron lay on the ground for a long moment, breathing heavy, his body aching. His armor was scratched and his helmet was cracked. The battlefield around him was silent, so silent that he could hear the faint hum of burning engines. He pushed himself up, feeling pain in his ribs, but he was alive. He touched the ground with his hand, trying to steady himself, and whispered in a tired voice, "I am still here." He looked around, searching for his squad. Hours ago, he had been fighting with other humans against the Empire's soldiers. The Empire had sent massive machines and strange weapons, and Iran remembered the moment when everything turned white. A great blast had struck, shaking the world, and then there was nothing. Now the battlefield was quiet, and there was no one else in sight. Aaron stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but he refused to stay down. He walked between broken ships, stepping over twisted metal and fallen machines. He hoped to find another human, maybe someone who had survived. But every helmet he found was empty, every body motionless. His heart grew heavy, yet he forced himself to move forward. The ruins of alien structures rose in the distance. They were tall stone shapes with strange carvings, older than the war, older than the Empire itself. Aaron had seen reports about these ruins before the battle. Scientists said they were from a lost civilization long gone. He wondered why the Empire had chosen to fight here, and why the ruins still stood even after the terrible blast. As he walked closer, the silence pressed against him. Aaron spoke his name aloud again, louder this time, as if the empty world needed to hear it. "My name is Iran." His voice echoed between the broken stones. For a brief moment he felt less alone. He reached the ruins and placed his hand on one of the tall stones. The surface was cold and marked with strange symbols. He could not read them, but they felt alive, as if they carried some forgotten story. He thought about his squad, about the faces he had known. He thought about Earth far away and the reason they had come here. Humanity had entered the war to survive, to prove they were not weak, to stand against empires that saw them as nothing more than prey. Aaron felt the weight of that truth pressing down on him. The wind moved softly through the ruins, carrying dust and ash. Aaron sat on a broken step and tried to gather his strength. His water pack was half empty, and his weapon had only a few charges left. He knew he could not stay in one place for long. But for now he needed to breathe and remember that he was alive. He closed his eyes and listened. Somewhere far away, metal groaned as a ship slowly collapsed. The fire of war had ended, but the battlefield still breathed with hidden sounds. Aaron wondered if anyone, human or alien, had survived besides him. Then, for the first time since he woke, he felt something different. A faint shift in the air, a sound that was not from machines or wind. His eyes opened quickly and his hand reached for his weapon. He stood ready, scanning the shadows of the ruins. Nothing moved at first. Only the stones stood tall and the smoke curled into the sky. Aaron narrowed his eyes and stepped forward, his boots crunching against the broken ground. He called out again, "My name is Aaron." His voice was steady this time, not only for himself but for whoever might be listening. He heard a soft echo, but then came another sound, lighter, almost like a breath. He turned sharply. Between two stone pillars, something shifted. A figure stepped out slowly, unsteady on its feet. Aaron raised his weapon, ready to defend himself. The figure was small, slender, and covered in torn fabric. It was not human. Its skin reflected the dim light with a silver glow, and its eyes shone faintly green. The figure looked weak, trembling, and when it saw Aaron, it stopped in surprise. Aaron kept his weapon raised but did not fire. The alien girl before him seemed close to falling. Her hands were empty and her face showed confusion more than anger. She looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. Aaron wondered if she was part of the Empire, if she had been fighting against him hours ago. Silence stretched between them. The battlefield around them gave no answer. Aaron took a slow breath and said his name once more. "I am Aaron." The alien girl's eyes widened. She stepped forward weakly, then dropped to her knees. Her body shook and she lowered her head as if in disbelief. Her voice came out soft but clear, carried by the quiet air. "You are still alive." Aaron felt a chill move through him. Her words were not a threat. They were shock, almost fear, almost reverence. He lowered his weapon slightly, uncertain of what her reaction meant. Why did his survival matter to her? Why did she kneel at the sound of his name? The ruins stood silent around them as if watching the moment. Aaron did not understand, but he knew this was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of something greater, something hidden in the ashes of war. The ruins were silent, yet the silence felt alive. The air was heavy with smoke and dust, but Aaron's mind was clear. His eyes were locked on the figure kneeling before him. The alien girl's skin shimmered faintly, as if the light of distant stars rested upon her. Her silver tone caught every small spark of fire still burning in the wreckage. Her long hair fell across her shoulders in tangled strands, carrying dust from the ruins. Her green eyes shone even as she lowered her head, her voice trembling as she repeated, "You are still alive." Aaron stood with his weapon half raised, not sure what to think. His training told him to stay cautious, to never trust an unknown alien in a war zone. But something about her words, something about her tone stopped him from firing. She was not attacking. She was not reaching for a weapon. She was on her knees, overwhelmed by his presence. He kept his voice steady. "Who are you?" The girl looked up slowly. Her face was tired, pale, but her eyes carried a strange brightness. "My name is Mira," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost fragile, but it carried through the still air. Aaron did not lower his guard. "Why did you kneel? Why do you say I should not be alive?" Mira pressed her hand against the ground to steady herself. She seemed weak, as if she had been wandering alone for too long. "Because no one survives the storm of fire. No one should have survived what happened here. Yet you stand. You breathe. It is not possible," Aaron frowned. He remembered the blast, the white light, the roar that tore across the battlefield. He had thought himself lucky, or maybe cursed, to survive. But the way Mira spoke made it sound like his survival meant something more. He studied her carefully. Her clothing was torn and burned, not the uniform of a soldier, not the armor of the Empire's warriors. It looked ceremonial, perhaps belonging to a people who had been caught in the middle of the battle. Aaron's grip on his weapon eased slightly, though he still kept it ready. "You are not Empire," he said firmly. "Are you?" Mira shook her head, her silver hair falling across her face. "No, I am not of them. My home was taken. My people were forced to serve or vanish. I came here because the ruins hold memory. The Empire feared these stones. That is why they fought here." Aaron's eyes narrowed. He had wondered about the ruins since he woke. Now he began to see why this place mattered. But another question burned in his mind. "Why does my name matter to you?" he asked. "Why do you kneel?" Mira looked up again, her eyes filled with something like awe. "Among my people there are stories. Stories of humans, the ones your enemies call Deathworlders. They say humans are born from harsh worlds, that they carry strength beyond reason, that they endure what others cannot. The Empire speaks of it with fear, but my people whispered of it as legend. To see you alive, standing after the fire, makes the legend true." Aaron stood in silence. He had heard soldiers on Earth joke about humans being hard to kill, about humanity being shaped by a dangerous homeworld. But to hear it from an alien, to hear it spoken as truth and reverence, made him pause. He realized that his survival was not just chance. To Mira, it was proof of something greater. Still, he would not allow himself to grow careless. "Legend or not, I am flesh and blood," he said. "I bleed, I suffer. I survive because I fight, not because I am unbreakable." Mira bowed her head slightly. "Yet you live when no one else does. That is why I kneel." Aaron lowered his weapon at last, though he did not put it away. He watched her closely. She was no threat, at least not now. But he needed answers, and he needed to understand why fate had brought her to him. He stepped closer, his boots crunching against the broken stone. "Stand up," he said firmly. "If we are both alive, then kneeling will not help us. We need to move." Mira looked at him with hesitation, then pushed herself slowly to her feet. She was unsteady, swaying for a moment before regaining balance. Aaron noticed how thin she looked, how weak. She had likely gone without food or water for too long. "Are you wounded?" he asked. "Not wounded," Mira said softly. "Only tired. Only lost," Aaron nodded. "Then we find shelter, food, water. If enemies return, they will sweep this place. We cannot stay here." Mira tilted her head. "And you will help me?" Aaron met her eyes with a hard gaze. "For now, survival comes first. Alone we may not last. Together we might." She studied him for a long moment, as if trying to see into his soul. Then she gave a small nod. They began to walk deeper into the ruins. The stones rose high around them, some leaning, some broken. but many still standing strong. Strange carvings lined the walls, glowing faintly in places as if touched by hidden energy. Mira reached out her hand, tracing the symbols with her fingers. "These stones remember," she said quietly. "They hold the voices of the old ones." Aaron kept his focus forward, scanning for threats. Old ones? The ones who built this world long before the Empire, long before humans reached the stars. Their memory lingers in these ruins. That is why the Empire fears them. Aaron said nothing. His mission had never been to study ruins or ancient history. His mission had been war, pure and simple. But now he was walking through forgotten mysteries with someone who believed in legends. After some time, they reached a part of the ruins where the stones formed a half circle, like a broken hall. There was some shelter from the wind and the smoke. Aaron checked the area carefully before lowering his pack. "This will do for now," he said. Mira sat on a low step, her body trembling with exhaustion. Aaron pulled out his water pack and handed it to her. She looked at it with wide eyes as if surprised by the gesture. "Drink," Aaron said. She took it carefully, sipping slowly. When she handed it back, her eyes met his again. "You give without asking." "Why?" Aaron shrugged slightly. "Because you need it. And because I will not watch someone die when I can prevent it." Mira studied him as if searching for something hidden. "The Empire tells us humans are cruel. Yet you share." Aaron's expression hardened. "The Empire lies. They want fear, not truth." For a time, silence returned, but it was not the same silence as before. It was softer, less empty. Two survivors now shared the ruins. As the night began to fall, the fires of the battlefield dimmed. The sky grew darker, filled with heavy clouds that glowed faintly with lightning. Aaron checked his weapon, then sat across from Mira. "You said I should not be alive," he said, breaking the silence. "But I am. And so are you? Perhaps that means more than legend." Mira tilted her head, her green eyes bright in the shadows. "Perhaps it means the old ones have not forgotten us. Perhaps it means fate has a new story to write." Aaron did not speak of fate. He believed in survival, in choices, not in destiny written by stones. But as he looked at Mira, as he remembered the way she knelt and whispered in awe, he felt the weight of her belief pressing against his doubt. Somewhere in the distance, a faint sound echoed like engines stirring. Aaron stiffened, listening closely. Mira looked at him with fear in her eyes. "They are coming," she whispered. Aaron's hand tightened on his weapon. The silence of the ruins was ending, and with it, their fragile moment of peace. The ruins seemed endless, tall stones rising like broken towers, their edges sharp against the dark sky. Fires from the battlefield had grown faint, but the smoke still drifted, painting the horizon with gray shadows. Aaron and Mira moved carefully through the ancient halls, searching for safety before the Empire's soldiers could return. Aaron walked first, his weapon ready. His boots pressed softly against the ground, every step measured. Behind him, Mira followed with quiet movements, her hand sometimes brushing against the carved walls as if she drew strength from their touch. The silence between them was heavy but not hostile. It was the silence of two strangers who did not yet know if they could trust each other, yet who shared the same need to survive. After some time, Aaron spoke without turning back. "You said these stones remember. What did you mean?" Mira's voice was soft, yet it carried a tone of certainty. "The ones who lived here long ago were not like us. They shaped the stars, left their memory in stone and fire. My people say the ruins can feel those who walk within them. They are not only walls. They are voices waiting." Aaron shook his head slightly. To him, stone was stone. He was a soldier, not a dreamer. But he did not interrupt her. He knew that her belief gave her strength, and right now strength was needed. They reached a wide chamber where the roof had collapsed, leaving the stars open above. Dust floated through the air, shining faintly in the dim light. At the center of the chamber stood a tall pillar covered with glowing lines. The glow was faint but alive, pulsing slowly like the beat of a heart. Mira stopped and stared at it with wide eyes. "The memory stone," she whispered. "It still breathes." Aaron studied it carefully, his weapon still in hand. "What is it?" "It is a keeper of stories," Mira replied. "My people once believed these stones could share knowledge, but only with those who listen. The Empire fears them because they do not understand." Aaron stepped closer, his hand brushing against the cool surface. He felt nothing more than stone, yet the glow under his fingers seemed to respond to his touch, brightening slightly. He pulled his hand back at once, uneasy. Mira gasped softly. It knows you, Aaron frowned. It is just light. No, Mira said, her eyes fixed on him. It has waited. The old ones left this for those who endure. Perhaps that is why you are alive. Aaron turned away, unwilling to let himself believe in fate or destiny. I am alive because I refuse to die. Nothing more. Mira did not argue. She simply placed her own hand against the stone and closed her eyes. For a moment, the glow flickered brighter, then calmed. She stepped back, her face thoughtful. They moved on, deeper into the ruins. The air grew colder and the silence heavier. As they walked, Aaron noticed Mira's weakness again. Her steps slowed and her breath grew shallow. Finally, he stopped and turned to her. You need rest, he said firmly. She shook her head. We cannot stop. The Empire will come. Aaron's voice hardened. If you collapse, neither of us will escape. We stop here for a while. Mira hesitated, then nodded slowly. She sat on a fallen block, her silver skin faintly reflecting the pale light. Aaron sat across from her, placing his weapon beside him but within reach. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Mira broke the silence. Do you miss your people? Aaron's jaw tightened. He thought of his squad, the men and women who had fought beside him. He thought of Earth far away, filled with cities and oceans, with families waiting for news. He let out a slow breath. Yes, he said simply. Every day. Mira lowered her gaze. I miss mine as well. The Empire took my home. They took my family. I ran because I could not serve them. I thought the ruins would hide me. But then the battle came and fire covered the sky. I thought I would end here, forgotten. Her voice trembled, but she did not cry. She spoke as one who had already lost too much. Aaron looked at her for a long moment. She was not a soldier, not a fighter like him, yet she had endured. That strength was different from his, but no less real. You are not forgotten, he said at last. You are alive. That is enough for now. Mira met his eyes, and for the first time she gave a faint smile. It was small and tired, but it carried warmth. The night deepened around them. Distant thunder rolled through the clouds, and the ruins echoed with faint cracks as stones shifted. Aaron stayed awake, keeping watch, while Mira rested with her back against the wall. When morning came, gray light spread across the battlefield. Aaron shook Mira gently awake. We move now. She stood slowly, still weak but steadier than before. Together they left the chamber and returned to the outer paths of the ruins. As they walked, Mira asked a question that had rested on her mind since the night before. Aaron, when you said your name aloud, why did you do it? Aaron glanced at her. Because the silence was too heavy. Speaking my name reminded me that I'm still here, that I am not gone. Mira nodded thoughtfully. When I heard you, it was like hearing the voice of a star. That is why I knelt. To me, it was not only a man speaking. It was a sign that hope was not finished. Aaron felt a strange weight at her words. He had spoken out of loneliness, out of the need to feel real in the ruins. But to her, it had meant so much more. They reached a broken passage where the ground dropped away, revealing tunnels below. Aaron studied it carefully, then gestured for Mira to follow. They climbed down into the shadowed depths, moving slowly. The tunnels were narrow, carved with the same strange symbols as above. The air was damp and drops of water fell from the ceiling, echoing softly. It was darker here, but safer from the eyes of enemies. As they walked, Mira spoke again. Do you believe humans are truly Deathworlders? That you are stronger than others? Aaron's voice was steady. I believe humans are survivors. We grow on a world that tests us every day. We fall, but we rise again. Not because we are unbreakable, but because we refuse to stay broken. Mira listened closely, her eyes shining faintly in the dark. Then perhaps that is what makes you feared. Not strength alone, but the will to rise. Aaron did not answer. He walked forward, his mind filled with memories of battles, of fallen comrades, of the endless fight for survival. The tunnels opened into another chamber, smaller than the first, but filled with faint light from cracks above. Here they found old supplies left behind. Strange metal containers, some broken, some still sealed. Aaron opened one carefully and found dried food inside, still safe to eat. He handed some to Mira, who accepted it with gratitude. They ate in silence, the simple act of sharing food strengthening the fragile bond between them. When they finished, Aaron leaned back against the wall, his weapon across his lap. We cannot stay in the ruins forever. We need to move toward higher ground. From there we may find a signal or at least see what remains. Mira agreed softly. Yes, but wherever you go, I will follow. Your survival is not chance. It is the start of something greater. I feel it. Aaron looked at her, her green eyes glowing with belief, and felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. He did not ask for her faith, yet it was given. He did not believe in fate, yet fate seemed to be shaping his steps. For the first time since the battle, he did not feel entirely alone. The tunnels gave them shelter for a time, but safety in ruins was never lasting. Hours passed as Aaron and Mira moved deeper underground, following narrow paths that twisted like veins beneath the earth. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of stone and dust. Aaron kept his weapon close, scanning each corner before stepping forward. Mira followed quietly, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Though her steps were light, her weakness was clear. She leaned against the walls now and then, steadying herself when her strength faltered. Finally, the tunnel opened into a cavern where sunlight broke through cracks in the ceiling. Dust sparkled in the air like drifting stars. For a moment, it felt peaceful, but peace never lasted on a battlefield. Aaron froze when he heard the sound. It was faint at first, a low hum, but it grew clearer. The sound of engines, slow and steady, cutting through the silence of the ruins. He raised his hand, signaling Mira to stay quiet. Mira's eyes widened. "The Empire," she whispered, her voice shaking. Aaron crouched near the wall, listening closely. The engines were not far. Heavy footsteps followed, the sound of armored boots striking stone. He could hear the metallic clatter of weapons being carried, the low voices of soldiers speaking in a harsh alien tongue. "They are sweeping the ruins," Aaron said in a low voice. "Searching for survivors," Mira trembled. "If they find us, they will kill us." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Then we make sure they do not." He guided Mira deeper into the cavern, hiding behind fallen stones. From their cover, he saw them. A squad of Empire soldiers entered through the far passage. Their armor was black and sharp, their helmets glowing faintly red. They carried long rifles that pulsed with energy. They moved in formation, scanning every shadow with practiced precision. Mira pressed her hand against her chest, her breath quick. Aaron placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Stay calm. Do not move until I tell you." She nodded, though fear still flickered in her eyes. The soldiers spread through the cavern, scanning the ground. One of them bent down, running a device over the dust. The device beeped, glowing bright. The soldier barked something in his alien language, and the others turned sharply. "They know," Mira whispered. Aaron's grip tightened on his weapon. He knew they had little chance if the entire squad advanced. But running would only expose them. The first soldier approached the stones where they hid. Aaron waited until the armored figure was close, then sprang forward. With a swift strike, he slammed the butt of his weapon against the soldier's helmet. The impact rang out, and the soldier stumbled back. Before the others could react, Aaron fired 2 quick shots, striking another soldier in the chest. The cavern lit with the flash of energy. "Run, Mira!" Aaron shouted. Mira darted toward the shadows as the squad opened fire. Energy bolts tore through the cavern, striking stone and sending shards flying. Aaron moved fast, rolling behind cover, firing back with sharp precision. His shots found weak points in the enemy's armor, but their numbers pressed hard against him. The cavern echoed with the roar of battle. Dust filled the air, glowing with the flash of weapons. Aaron fought with every ounce of his strength, moving quickly, never staying in one place. He felt the sting of heat as a bolt grazed his shoulder, but he pushed the pain aside. Mira crouched behind a fallen block, watching in fear and awe. She had seen soldiers fight before, but not like this. Aaron did not move as a man who fought for glory. He moved as a man who refused to fall. His will was like iron, his focus unbreakable. The soldiers pressed closer, their rifles blazing. Aaron's weapon clicked, empty. He cursed under his breath, tossing it aside. Without hesitation, he charged forward, grabbing a broken piece of stone as a shield. Energy bolts struck the stone, scorching it, but Aaron pushed through. He slammed into one soldier, knocking him down, then ripped the rifle from his hands. With sharp aim, he fired, striking 2 more. Mira gasped at the sight. He was outnumbered, wounded, yet he fought as if no force could end him. But the squad was not yet finished. The leader stepped forward, taller and broader than the rest. His armor glowed with stronger shields, and his weapon was larger, humming with dangerous power. He raised it and fired. The blast struck near Aaron, throwing him back against the ground. His body ached, his chest heavy with the impact, but he forced himself to rise. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. yet his eyes burned with defiance. Mira could not stay hidden. She ran forward, placing herself near him. "You cannot fight them alone," she said, her voice trembling yet strong. Aaron shook his head. "Stay back." But Mira lifted her hand toward the glowing pillar behind them. The memory stone pulsed with sudden light, brighter than before. She closed her eyes, whispering words in her own tongue. The stone responded, sending a wave of energy through the cavern. The Empire soldiers staggered, their armor sparking. Aaron seized the chance. He lunged forward with the stolen rifle, firing shot after shot. The soldiers fell one by one, their bodies crashing against the stone floor. The leader roared, raising his weapon again, but Aaron struck first. With a final shot aimed at the weak point beneath the leader's helmet, he ended the fight. Silence returned to the cavern, broken only by Aaron's heavy breathing. The dust settled slowly, covering the fallen soldiers. Mira lowered her hand, her body trembling. The pillar behind her dimmed once more, its energy fading. She looked at Aaron with wide eyes. "You fought like no one I have ever seen. They feared you, even as they died." Aaron leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling. His body ached, but his spirit burned bright. "I fought because I had to. Survival demands it." Mira stepped closer. "No, you fought because you are more than survival. You are the proof of the stories. The Empire is right to fear your kind." Aaron shook his head, though his eyes softened as he looked at her. "I am no legend. I am a man who refuses to fall." She knelt before him again, her green eyes filled with awe. "That is why you are more. Not because you cannot die, but because you will not bow to death. That is what makes you human. That is what makes you feared." Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder, urging her to rise. "Then do not kneel. Stand. If we are to survive, we stand together." Mira rose slowly, meeting his gaze. In that moment, a silent bond grew between them. The battlefield had taken everything, yet it had given them this, an alliance born from fire and ruin. Outside the cavern, the engines of more Empire patrols echoed faintly. The battle was not over, but Aaron and Mira were ready. Together they would face whatever came. The battlefield was quiet again. The smoke that rose after the clash slowly faded into the gray sky. Aaron stood in the ruins with his chest rising and falling like a hammer. His clothes were torn, his hands bruised, but his spirit stood tall. Beside him, Mira sat on the broken ground, her silver skin marked with dust and her green eyes shining with a strange light. She looked at Aaron as if she was seeing a star for the first time. "You fought like no one I have ever seen," Mira whispered. "Even when they circled us, you did not step back. You did not surrender. You are alive when no one else should be." Aaron breathed deeply, then leaned on a fallen stone wall. His voice was rough but steady. "I am alive because I refuse to give up. That is what humans do. We keep walking even when the world tries to bury us." Mira lowered her head. For a moment she stayed on her knees, just like before. Her voice trembled. "When I saw you for the first time, I thought it was only luck that you survived. Now I know it is more than luck. The stories about humans are true. You are not like the others. You rise again and again, and even the strongest empire cannot stop you." Aaron watched her with calm eyes. He remembered the fear he felt when he first woke up alone. He remembered how he had spoken his name just to feel alive. Now this alien girl spoke to him with respect and hope. He stepped forward and reached out his hand. "Stand with me, Mira," he said. "Kneeling does not suit you. You are strong too. You stayed when others would have run. You fought when you had nothing left. We survived because we stood together. Do not kneel. Walk with me." Her green eyes lifted, full of surprise. Slowly she placed her hand in his. He pulled her up and they stood side by side among the broken ruins. She looked around at the battlefield, at the fallen machines and scattered weapons. For the first time she did not feel alone. They began to walk through the silent land. Their steps crunched over broken metal and ash. Aaron searched for useful supplies while Mira pointed out safe paths through the rubble. Though their worlds had once been enemies, now they trusted each other more than anyone else. As they moved, Mira spoke quietly. "My people will not believe this. They will not believe I fought beside a human. They will not believe I saw him rise again when all seemed lost." Aaron gave a small smile. "Then we must show them. Words are not enough. They must see that we can survive together. Alone we fall, but united we stand." Mira nodded. A sense of purpose filled her heart. She realized that meeting Aaron was not an accident. It was part of something greater, something her people had long forgotten. That night, they found shelter inside the remains of a crashed ship. The hull was broken, but the inside was safe from the cold wind. Aaron started a small fire with broken wires and fuel scraps. The soft glow filled the dark space. Mira sat across from him, watching the flames dance. She asked, "Do you not feel fear, Aaron? When the enemy came with their weapons, I felt my heart freeze. Yet you ran toward them, not away." Aaron's eyes reflected the fire. "Of course I felt fear. Fear lives inside every human, but we use it as fire inside our chest. We do not let it stop us. Fear reminds us that life is worth fighting for. Without fear, there is no courage. Courage is walking forward even when your legs shake." Mira listened closely. The words carved themselves into her thoughts. She realized that her people had been taught to obey and to kneel before power. They had forgotten that courage was stronger than fear. "You speak as if survival is not enough," Mira said. Aaron looked at her firmly. "Survival is the start, not the end. If we only survive, then we live like shadows. We must build, protect, and fight for more than ourselves. That is why I keep going, not just for me, but for all who believe there is a tomorrow." The fire cracked softly. Mira's heart felt warm. She understood now why the stories of humans had spread across the stars. The next day they set out toward the mountains where Mira said there might be a hidden station. The path was long and full of dangers. Fallen drones still scanned the ruins, and unstable ground shook beneath their steps. Yet every time Mira stumbled, Aaron offered his hand. Every time Aaron slowed from pain, Mira stood beside him and gave him strength. They were no longer two survivors. They were a team. On the third day of travel, they reached a high cliff. From there, they saw smoke in the distance. Ships of the Empire were landing, searching for survivors and resources. Aaron's jaw tightened. "If they find us, they will not stop until we are gone." Mira touched his arm. "Then we must reach the station before they close in. There we can send a signal. My people will come. And if they see a human alive fighting beside me, they will believe." Aaron nodded. "Then we run, together." The final stretch tested them more than any fight. Hungry, tired, and chased by patrols, they pushed through every barrier. Aaron's body felt heavy, but his will burned brighter. Mira's legs shook, but she leaned on his strength. They reached the hidden station, a small outpost carved into the rocks just as enemy ships filled the sky. Inside the station, Mira worked on the old transmitter. Sparks flew as she tried to repair it. Aaron stood guard, holding a broken rifle he had fixed with scraps. His eyes stayed sharp, scanning every shadow. At last, the signal pulsed into the stars. Mira turned to him with a breath of relief. "It is done. They will hear us. My people will come." Aaron's face softened. "Good. Then we will not be the last voices in this place." Soon after, enemy soldiers surrounded the station. Aaron and Mira fought side by side once more. Every strike, every movement showed the bond they had formed. Mira fought with skill, guided by Aaron's courage. Aaron fought with unbreakable will, knowing Mira believed in him. The battle was fierce, but they did not fall. Just as their strength began to fade, ships of Mira's people arrived. Fighters roared through the sky, chasing away the enemy. For the first time, Mira's people saw a human standing alive after the storm. When the battle ended, Mira's people approached. They looked at Aaron with wide eyes, whispering to each other. To them, he was proof of the old legend. Mira stepped forward and raised her voice. "This is Aaron, a human who stood when all else fell. He is the reason I am alive. He is the reason I believe we can fight back. If we walk with him, we will not be broken." Her people listened, and in their eyes hope was born. Later, as the sun rose over the quiet ruins, Mira stood beside Aaron. She remembered the first time she knelt before him, believing his survival was a miracle. Now she understood. "You changed me, Aaron," she said softly. "I will never kneel again. I will walk beside you. Together we will build something greater than survival." Aaron looked at her, his face tired but strong. "Then let this be the start. Not just for us, but for everyone who believes that life is worth fighting for." They stood side by side, two survivors bound by courage, ready to face the stars. The ruins behind them were only the end of one chapter. Ahead of them stretched a future where humans and aliens would rise together. And in that moment, the bond of survival became the bond of hope.